Hello, and many thanks for joining us today. My name is Owen Keenan, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for the Orion Platform. And today's episode is all about Orion. Some of you joining us today will be new to the Orion Platform, but many of you will be already using it. Whichever group you fit into, I'm sure you'll find today's content really useful. There's been some confusion about what exactly Orion is, and I'd like to take a moment to try to clarify. The Orion Platform isn't a product you purchase. It's the modular, scalable platform that serves as a foundation for many of our monitoring and management tools. Many of you are already using Orion if you have one or more of these modules, such as Network Performance Monitor. The reason we're doing these lab sessions is to demonstrate features and functions you may not be aware of. We want to help you to get the most out of the products you already own. And that's why we have some of our top product experts here today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to them. Please let us know what you think of this episode and let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes. Thank you.
And thank you very much for that introduction. We're going to go ahead and start one of our, what hopefully are many SolarWinds Labs talking about the mastery of the Orion Platform. I'm Kevin Sparenberg, Technical Content Manager for THWAC and the community. And with me is...
I'm Matt Quick, one of the sales engineers here at SolarWinds.
So I think we start with the basics. So we get this a lot. I know we've been at conferences. We've gone up and actually had people come up to us and like, hey, how are you doing? Are you familiar with SolarWinds? Yeah. It's like, we have Orion. And I'm like, cool. And?
What Orion product do you have?
Yeah, which modules are you talking about? And then the blank sometimes sets in, and that's totally understandable. I was actually one of those people the first time I ran into SolarWinds from the customer side. And it's because when I bought it years and years ago, Orion was NPM. Mm-hmm. And so when you bought it, you got Orion Network Performance Monitor, and ta-da! And it said Orion at the top, says the Orion at the top of all of the pages. So you just assume that's the product, but it's not. What it actually is, it's the platform. So what does that actually entail?
So the platform, or we call it the core, is where all the modules are going to reside. So, and the fun part is we've got many different modules that do many different things. And a lot of customers know us for our networking products like NPM and TA and CM, but then we also have our systems portfolio too, which not everybody quite knows about, with our like SAM, vMan, SRM, and so forth. So. But yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit that we have here. And, you know, the great part about it is it's simple and it's complex at the same time. It's simple and it's complex.
Well, that's I've heard an analogy like that. Lifting an engine block out of a car is not difficult. I mean, or I'm sorry, it's not complex. It's just difficult to do. And this is kind of in the same vein of things. It's like, because we have unified alerting engine, we have unified web UI, we have a unified reporting or reporting engines, and unified administration of permissions and stuff. That makes it simple.
Right.
But since 12, 13, 14, however many products live on top of this, that can make it complex.
Right, exactly. And the fun part is me being one of the sales engineers, I interact with customers all the time, and you'll find out customers who've been with us with, 5, 7, 8 years, however long, they don't realize all the new stuff that we've had in here. They don't realize that maybe we made things easier. And that's really what we're going to try to get across with these episodes.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the stuff you already own and maybe learn some tips and tricks on stuff that you didn't know were possible.
Right, exactly. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it then.
Yeah, so we have a generic scenario that I think both of us have seen from a lot of customers is that you either have SAM, the Server and Application Monitor, or you have SAM and NPM, or you have multiple products. But long story short, you've gone through, you followed the setup wizard, you've got everything running, the website's clean and runs nice, and then you run through your first discovery, and it says, cool, add all that stuff to monitoring. And you're like, awesome. Yep. And then when it's all done, you're presented with pages and pages and pages and pages of green, yellow, red dots, and it's just data overload. So we're going to start with a little bit of dashboarding and filtering.
Right, exactly. So, and the cool part is that the way we've set up the Orion consoles, whether you're looking at the overall homepage or NPM or SAM, we try to make it a one-size-fits-all for every customer that's out there. Unfortunately, and I can attest to this, if I go to a ball game and get a shirt that one size fits all doesn't quite fit me.
Seconded.
So yeah, and so one of the things I get is like, how do I customize a dashboard? In which, customizing a dashboard is actually pretty simple, right? So what we could do here on our screens, so we'll make sure we flip over, truly, it has gotten a lot easier. And a lot of people notice there used to be a customized page link in the upper right corner. Now we moved to the upper left, and the big difference of that is as soon as I click on this, now it's interactive, right? I can drag and drop these widgets around wherever I see fit. I can go through and add any widgets up here. And again, very drag and drop. I can add new columns. A lot of really great stuff over here. But the problem I run into quite a bit is, yeah, I can customize a dashboard, but how do I really design a dashboard, right? And that's really one of the big things I want to focus on today. So now, the cool part is, I know a lot of you guys maybe have already done this, and please hit us up on Slack. Show me your dashboards. I want to get ideas what you guys see, because I got my preferences, you have your preferences, and they may not always line up.
No, and they probably won't. And a lot of that comes from background. For us, it's different because we're at the company, but from our background, the customers we talk to. But as customers and consumers of this platform, was I a network engineer first who then became a monitoring person? So you have a different mindset. Am I a server and application person who then became? Am I the voice tech who then inherited this? Just the way your mind's wrapping around. And I think one of the things that we probably don't stress enough, although customizing the platform is really easy, you can work through a million things, it's not really difficult to do the simple stuff. You got to leave your desk.
Yeah.
You got to go, you got to have a meeting with people whenever you're talking about dashboards. You got to find out what they want, what they need, basically what their action plan is for the day. And for me, I came up with 2 questions, like, what do you need to know about every morning? And how do you tell that all your environment's good? Right. If they could tell me in succinct ways what that was, then I could take that back and say, okay, I think I know what I need for a dashboard. Let me build that, and we'll run through some iterations.
Right. Exactly. And that sort of feedback is absolutely going to be key, right? And the other thing too is, I tell my customers all day long, it's really easy to customize these dashboards. Okay, well, how long does it take? Infinity?
Yeah.
Because it's the designing phase, right? Way back in the day when I did the coding of other things, not this, but the design phase is what took us the longest. Actually sitting down to program it didn't take as long. And then there's debugging, which is the other fun part.
And I think everyone who's watching this has had some level of that. It's like the design, the change, the iteration, the scope creep. Those kinds of things are the things that always kind of never-ending cycle. But it kind of builds in with the SDLC. It's like you build, you implement, you get feedback, you build, you implement, you feedback over and over and over again.
Right. It's a never-ending process. So let's dive into it. And me personally, I've got one very specific example, and we're going to utilize Server and Application Monitor for a lot of this today. Now, these concepts apply to any of the products. You can do this with any one of them. It's not terribly hard to do, but I'm going to pick on SAM because I do have a love-hate relationship with the SAM dashboard.
All right, well, let's bring that up.
Yep. So we're logged into one of our lab environments. So I'm going to just drill down into SAM. And where my love-hate comes from is when you have that home dashboard, it's going to show you an overall view of everything that's going on. Great. If you have SAM only, this is where I love it. SAM only is going to show you your nodes, and then if you go into the applications page, it shows you your applications. What if you're part of a massive environment and they've already owned NPM, you've added SAM on? Well, now the home page has your network devices, your server devices, your UPSs, whatever else that they've added in there. And suddenly you go to the application page, and the number one question I always get from customers, where are my servers?
Well, that's easy. They're on that other page where you started.
Right.
So you have to back click. No.
Yeah.
Let's fix that.
And then everything's collapsed into Windows. Everything's collapsed into Linux. So number one thing I always do, and customers who've actually just now seeing me for the first time can attest to this, I've done this to them. I go through, I add a widgets. I look for the all nodes tree view, which I'm just going to search for nodes up here. All nodes tree. A little drag and drop action over here. And done and done. So Doing that, refreshing the page, that'll actually load up my, there it goes, all nodes tree view, and we have absolutely no organization on here. So obviously we do need to customize this.
Yeah, I'm seeing network gear in here.
Right, and that's going to be the first problem we're going to solve.
Okay.
Because these are summary pages. Now it happens to be under the applications page, but because it's a summary page, I can do whatever I want. And the cool part about that is if I wanted to put like a vman page in there, or I want to see the status of my storage arrays, I can add it to this page if I wanted to. So, but for right now, we're going to concentrate on servers. So first things first, in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to hit edit.
So what we're doing now is we're actually editing the widget, the resource, and not the page as a whole.
Right. This is just this particular widget. And we want this to be all my servers. So first thing, I'm going to make it nice and clean. And then I am going to take my grouping nodes, and I'm going to say group by machine type.
So for servers, this is typically operating system.
Correct, yes. So now on the home page, it's done by vendor, and that's why everything's collapsed under Windows, they're collapsed under Linux. It's also collapsed under Cisco, Juniper, name your device. So, but machine type, you're right, that's going to go by OS instead. Now the other big thing we're going to do is the filter nodes. So with filter nodes, and there are examples, you can actually see here, there's show filter examples.
There's actually great examples, simple,
Yes.
super simple ones there.
Yep, and we can actually utilize those. And you don't have to be a SQL expert. I mean, that's actually the really cool part about this. But with this, I can create filters on the fly. There's actually one pre-built in. So we can do is server equals to 1 being true. There's an automatic filter for whether or not something is a server. This qualifies.
Okay.
Now, if you really want to get fancy with this and you want to do it by vendor instead, so you want to do everything Windows, everything Linux, everything VMware, and maybe I want to add, I don't know, some of my Cisco UCS devices in there.
Or if you're building one of these that's just for a specific office, you can say is server and the location equals something.
Exactly. So there's a lot you can do within here, but for right now, we want servers. So submit. There we go. Ta-da!
Okay, so I see no Cisco in here, I see no Juniper, I see no F5, so this is really just the servers. And that other list also had all of the hypervisors, so the VMware ESX stuff. These are actually showing just the things running a specific operating system.
Right,
Perfect.
Exactly. So, and yeah, there and again, if I wanted to get fancy with it and I wanted to see my hypervisors, well, then I can do and vendor equals VMware.
Yeah.
That adds that in there too. So, yeah. And that's, all of a sudden, just by adding that one little item, now this to me is server and application monitor.
Yeah, because the top brick says, here are my servers, the next ones are, here are my applications.
Yep, exactly.
Instead of having to drill through the applications 2-3 tiers to get to the node, the server in question.
Right, exactly. So now here's where we're going to get a little bit fancier. So me personally, I have a bit of a design background. It's a small joke. I did business cards, but I learned the ways of doing some layouts. And you'll also notice within other products, we also have some consistencies with our columns. And I really like to make things consistent across columns, right? So right now, I've got something for servers here, something for applications here, something for applications here, server warranty summary here, application health overview here. It's a little all over the place. So, and again, pretty simple. I can just go through, drag and drop, put all my applications in the right-hand column. And this way, I've got statuses for both server and applications at the top. That is exactly what I see.
So you have, what do we keep calling it? Above the fold.
Right.
You have above the fold. So in the first 2 seconds of the page load, you can see where you need to work on stuff.
Right.
Perfect.
Exactly.
All right.
So, and same thing. Let's organize applications over here and scroll down where that server warranty summary was. Click the wheel there. And now I can move this over to, ooh, that was fun. Video fun. Move this one over here, drag it back up, and so on. So now this is a bit more organized. Servers on the left, applications on the right. Now granted, I only did a couple widgets. I can obviously spend the extra 30 seconds and do the rest of it, but for purposes of this example, this is actually pretty good, right? So that being said, other big things about design. Because if I didn't say this, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
All right.
But because of the whole design aspect, and yes, I made business cards, I also made signs. And with signs, we have this thing that's called a 3-foot view, a 5-foot view, a 12-foot view. And one of the things a lot of our customers use are going to be knock views, where we can actually say, I'm going to put this up on the 60-inch screen. Everyone's going to see it. You can even have your alerts play sounds off that monitor as well, which we can cover that later on, like an alerting show. But
Note to self.
exactly. But what you can do is you can have it at that 12-foot view. Now, we're about 3 feet. Yes, I can read this. If I took a few steps back, my vision's not that great. So yes, there's going to be the ability to zoom in. Obviously, your browser can do that. Now you're going to want to shorten your columns a bit so you can see everything on that one screen. But the other big thing you want to consider too is that if you are in that big 60-inch screen, you're not going to scroll down, right? So you want to be able to put what you want to see onto here, right? And the other big thing too is that you don't want to overcrowd this. Drives my wife nuts whenever she shows me some article and you just have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm bored after 20 seconds of that. I want to see everything right where I have it. And then if I want something else, I'm going to click to a different page, right?
So the simple scenario, let's say we take that widget we already built and we say, okay, this is just the servers. But I can already see I've got multiple statuses here. I've got warning, I've got a bunch of green, and I got some reds. I could create a different view and say, like, today's work, or servers with problems, and just say, give me all the servers, which we already have filtered with is server equals 1, and then the status is not equal to up. So, and that is presumably, hopefully in your environment, a much shorter list. And you were saying if you have to put that on a knock screen, you put it on a knock screen because it'll be a short list and won't go beyond the fold.
Exactly.
All right.
So, the other big thing too with those knock views, because again, if it's on the 60-inch screen, you're probably not going to be touching it. And what if you do need those multiple screens? We can do that. So the other hidden feature, and for those of you who have been with us for a while, you probably missed this, but if I go back to customize page again, and I click one more time to page settings.
Which is where the old link used to take you.
Exactly. So this is the old version of it. And you can add columns in here. You can actually add columns when you add widgets as well. But the big checkbox down here at the bottom of the page, enable knock view mode. And what this does, and you can actually set what the timing of it's going to be. So, do I refresh it every 15 seconds? Do I move to the next screen every 30 seconds? That is up to you. But what you'll do, I'm just going to hit done for right now. I'm going to flip tabs, very sneaky of me, to our Orion demo site where we've already got one set up. And I'll show you how this actually works. Under our knock view tab, I am taking my hands off the mouse and keyboard. I actually say that in my calls as well because I don't use video over calls. But by taking it off every about 15 seconds, automatically flips to the next page. Now, how this works, that's the other fun part. Let me go up here in the upper right. Let's say exit knock mode. And now you'll see these are the same summary screens we've been dealing with so far, but over here on the left-hand side where we have these individual tabs. Probably familiar with these tabs. If you drill down into a node, you've got your network tab, you've got your interfaces tab, all that good
details,
stuff.
the mapping, all those in there.
You can do this on a summary page too. And what we're doing is we're flipping through these tabs. And you can have as many tabs as you want. But from here, when you want to keep that 12-foot view that you're never going to touch, keep the widgets you want to see towards the top. You can't scroll down, so don't do anything that will make you scroll down. And then you could actually go through and say, okay, create 3, 4, 5 different pages. Here's the status of all my stuff.
So one could be just my network infrastructure. The next one could be just my server infrastructure. If we're talking full knock that matches everything, one could basically be like a per product column, essentially. We did get a question from the audience. How much longer until we can pull single widgets across multiple columns without changing pages? All I want to say is stay tuned. And if you haven't signed up for betas, you might want to go ahead and check and sign up for some of the betas.
Exactly. So, all right. So one other big thing I do want to show, and again, I'm going to pick on Sam for this one because I get this a lot, is how do I make a dashboard of my application?
Yes, an application.
Right. And the keyword there is an application. So we're not talking something like, I want to see SQL, I want to see Exchange. No. they want to see something like Orion, right? So everyone should be familiar how it installs. Orion is not just one component, right?
It's at least 3.
Exactly. It's the Orion application itself with all of its services and processes. It's also going to be the IIS server on the front end. It's also going to be the SQL on the back end, right? So obviously that's mostly with SAM. We have the App Insight for IIS, App Insight for SQL. But how do I get that into a one cohesive dashboard?
Yeah,
Right?
because we have summary pages already. We've got summary pages for IIS, but it's all my IIS.
Right.
I've got a summary page for SQL, but it's all my SQL.
Right.
So the Orion is 3 components. It's not dissimilar at all to stuff like SharePoint or custom ERP apps or in-house intranets and stuff like that, where you actually have these services that, although they shouldn't live on a single box, but they probably stretch across multiple boxes. But the only thing they have in common is how they interact.
Right, exactly. So, and that's what I really want to focus on is like, how do I build this and how do I build this from scratch, right? Because you're exactly right. This is what you're talking about when we have the SQL example, the IIS example, and all this is a filter on the page to just show me SQL servers, right?
Okay.
What if I only cared about certain ones?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to pick on these 2 down here because they're both West SQL AG something something, right? Now, this is just picking on SQL, not necessarily SQL, IIS, and Orion. And there's definitely a way to do that. We're going to do that with custom properties, and that is definitely a stay tuned for a future episode on that one, because that's an episode in and of itself. But I can make one for just my West farm. So now, first thing I want to do is let's talk about the My Dashboards page, right? The left columns here with home, applications, log, those are individual products minus home, because that's home, but that cannot be customized. But the right-hand side can. So let's start with that. So we're going to go to settings and all settings. And I'm going to add it to one of the current menu bars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to add new view. And a view, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, is this.
Can
be.
be that.
Yes, can be. It doesn't necessarily have to add to a menu bar, but SAM Summary is a view. Active Directory is a view. Exchange is a view. And you get the picture. Okay, so I'm going to call this one West SQL Farm. And it is going to be a summary type view because that is a summary view in that page, right? There's also others like the No Details view. So believe it or not, you can actually set up separate No Details views for different devices. We actually do this automatically. Like you'll notice Cisco devices look different from Windows.
And sometimes even by model.
That's right.
The firewalls look different than the other things. I used to do I used to just do the simple thing, switches and routers, both important, but different roles, so they were slightly different views.
Well, that's a very good point. But for right now, we're going to keep it to summaries.
Sure.
Right? So submit that. And we're back to this form. We have a blank canvas over here. I'm going to go ahead and leave this a blank canvas for right now because I like the new way of doing things.
Yeah.
So, but remember the title, it's called West SQL Farm. So now, the next thing we want to do is add this to one of the menu bars so we actually know where we're going to go. So if I go to add settings, all settings, 2 L's, 2 D's, it's the same thing, right? All right. Now, from here, I'm going to say customize menu bars. Now, again, with the menu bars, you can have multiple menu bars, and you can assign these to particular users. So if you want to do like role-based access control, my manager only sees the green and the red, whereas I actually see the information. They get pretty pictures. Yeah.
Most of the people who browse this site never get to see anything in NCM because they don't understand what network configs are.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you can do that. But for right now, this APM tab menu where I have SAM Summary, Active Directory Exchange, hey look. SAM Summary, Active Directory Exchange. That's the one I want to edit. I'm going to edit this here. I'm going to scroll down in my handy alphabetical order. West. I remember I titled this with an M earlier, so that's why I stopped in the middle. Oops. Scroll up towards the top here. And cheat a little. There we go. I'm going to put you at the end. Submit. There we go. Dashboard's refreshed, and now, looky there. I've got a blank canvas to work with.
Yay.
So, all right, so now I've got the blank canvas. I know I want the West SQL stuff. Let's start at it, right? And I'm going to keep this pretty basic for time's sake. I can definitely get fancy over here, but I'll go to add widgets. Again, I'll get my all nodes tree view. I don't even really have to do a tree view.
No,
I can actually just do all nodes because there's only 2 in this case.
And we'll just put a filter on it anyway.
Exactly. So we'll do all nodes. And same thing, I'll do the applications as well. So, and application L tree. There we go. Done and done. All right. So we'll go back over here. We'll start with all nodes. Edit. And same thing. We'll do a filter nodes on SQL. Except this time, rather than doing is server equals 1, we want to do it by the name because they all start with West SQL, right? And again, I'll use a filter example so everyone can see. And
there's an excellent one right there.
There's one right here. So,
and a small but distinct thing here is that this uses wildcards like files and folders use wildcards.
Yes.
Even though it says SQL, it's not using the SQL wildcards. It's not using percent, and it's not using underscore. It's using asterisk and question mark.
Yes, exactly. And the other big thing I'll also point out too, it is a single quote. Double quote, no worky.
Yeah.
So don't do it. So caption, I'm going to use like again, and I'm going to say West SQL star and single quote again. And for consistency, West SQL nodes. Cool. All right. Submit. There we go. All 2 of them.
All both.
All right. Now let's do the same thing for the all applications tree too, because again, it's not just App Insight for SQL, because I've got several SQL servers in here as well. So I'm going to edit these too. And again, title it for consistency, West SQL applications. And I can even just say, go ahead and do by node name and no other level.
Because we know it's going to be grouped by them. So
exactly. So cool. And then now, filter applications again. Now, because this is an application, we don't want to just say application name like West SQL because it's App Insight for SQL. So we can't really do that. But the node name is.
Yeah.
And right here, node caption like, hey, right there in front of me. So nodes.caption like and West SQL. I'm going to get a fancy use a % there this time.
Because this is a SWCL one.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And this is why we give these examples at the bottom of these pages, because each one filters slightly differently, and a lot of that has to do with the back-end architecture, which is why we give you this stuff in front.
Exactly. That, and it's handy. Submit that. And now I've got my 2 West SQLs and their SQL status.
And look, they're happy.
They're all happy.
In this lab, seeing green is a little unusual.
So there was a reason why I picked on West.
Yeah.
So now we can get even fancier with this too, right? Because at this point, we are picking on certain applications. We can get a little bit more detailed on here.
Yeah.
And you know I love a little more detail.
Yep.
So one real cool thing we can do is I am going to add a per stack dashboard.
Oh, okay.
So per stack, for those who haven't seen this one before, this is what I like to call a performance sandbox view, right? And really and truly, as long as you're monitoring it, it can go in here.
So if there is a metric being collected by Orion somewhere in the infrastructure, you can drop it in here.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
and they don't have to be related.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
But the even cool thing, part or two that a lot of people don't recognize is even though it's not a metric-based product, NCM, you can still put those on there and it'll show you configuration changes and we'll actually show you what that change is. But we're talking about servers, so let's not spoil this. So West SQL, wait, search first, getting ahead of yourself. Whew. Check both boxes since it's open. Now I'll add these 2.
Okay, so we came in as nodes.
Yep. And I'm going to keep this simple because I want to know CPU memory. I really want to know about memory.
Yeah.
But I'm going to isolate this to say find metric for CPU and average CPU load, drag, drop. Cool. There's my metric over there. Now I can do the same thing over here.
And the filter stays in place, which is nice.
Exactly. And I'll drag and drop. And I'll make that to a new chart. So there's 1, there's 2. I want my memory too. So memo, average memory used. Throw that onto the same chart. Now they're side by side. Same thing with one, drag, drop. Cool. I'm going to save this and West SQL per stack. Now, Matt, why did you do all this? Well, I can tell you why, Matt. So
I says to myself, self, why'd you do this?
we have lots of conversations on a nightly basis, and that's why I don't sleep. So now if I go back to my West SQL farm, and I go back here to customize page, and I add widgets one more time, now if I search for the name that I just saved it as, so West, oh, there it is right there, I can place that onto a dashboard as well. And now that's going to show me last 7 days statistics for those two particular metrics. And if I want to expand this out so I get a little bit more detail on there, I can. If I want to change the time range, just hit last 7 days, go last 24 hours. I can get a little bit more detail there. So a lot of really cool stuff you can do on this one. There's also stuff you could do with like Orion maps. You can also put onto here as well. And that could actually just be as simple as, because believe it or not, drum roll please. If I drill into the application, everyone knows in the network maps, if you drill into a network device, you see the Orion maps widget, right? But did you know that you can also get it at the application level too? So now it's one of those, I didn't hit this page earlier, so it should still be loading. There we go. Left-hand side, there's the map as well. And on the system side, this works a little bit differently. Rather than showing you the network topology, it actually shows you all the dependencies, whether it's the server it's on, or if you have Virtualization Manager, it's part of your virtual environment, it'll put that in there too.
If you have Storage Manager, it'll bring up, surface the arrays and the LUNs that you're connected to.
Right.
And if you have application dependency mapping turned on, it'll tell you what's talking to what.
Exactly. So a lot of really good information in here. And I'm just going to keep it basic right here. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just save this. So that's actually saving the group. I'm going to open this in Map Editor.
So we can save it as a map and not a group.
Yep. And I can tell you right now, if you attended the THWAC camp last year, there's actually an excellent video on maps, how to customize these, add images, all that good stuff. So check that video out too. But for right now, I can make this pretty if I want. Sake of time, I'm just going to save this. Give it a unique name, West SQL Farm.
You mean unique map name, because we use that name a lot. But the beauty of it is you know exactly what you're looking for when you're searching.
This is true. I should probably put the word map in there, but hindsight, that's 2020, right? So now, back over here, customize again, add one more widget, and this one's going to be listed under Orion Maps. Drag and drop, put that back in column 1, done editing, and choose my map. Down here, all one of these maps. And you can go ahead and you can add like a title of this is my West SQL Farm again, subtitle, how big this is going to be, but save that. And now I've got my visual map over here, which also includes the other objects the SQL server is actually connected to, so I can see their status as well.
Yeah. So that is the application running on the server, running off of this hypervisor, off of that drive, connected to that cluster.
That's connected to that neck bone, yes.
And the shin bone. We're not going to do that. Okay.
So yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And again, we picked on SAM, right?
Yeah.
Because it's pretty easy to pick on, but there's a lot of different things you can do with different products, right? If you had your MPLS networks, you do that.
Great example to put out there.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you deal with a lot of branch offices, and they just need to know about their one or their two connections out to the MPLS network. You can build them a view as like, here's your infrastructure, and then have a small box in the corner that says, here's the health of your network, and just have a small map for them.
Right. Yep, exactly. Another big thing you can do too, which actually, going back to our online demo site, if you're in the cloud, then you can actually go in cloud and actually see like a hybrid cloud setup. It wasn't the one I was looking for. There it is. Azure Hybrid SharePoint. So we actually built a custom dashboard that shows us our Azure nodes that are running SharePoint, but they're using on-prem for, I believe it's the SQL server on the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can actually see the status of both of these. And this is custom that we created as well. So yeah, there's tons of stuff you can do with customization. Like I said, the hardest part what do you want to do?
Yeah, the hardest part here is actually having the conversation.
Right.
You need to take your network, you need to take your standard hat, your network, your server hat off, and you have to think, as someone who's responsible for being a monitoring engineer, I may not know what's best for all the teams.
Yep.
I need to have that discussion with them.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Just like you should be having discussions with them about their alerts.
Right.
But that's a separate talk.
Will be a separate talk. So yeah, but
Alerts.
That was a lot that we've actually covered in just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So the cool part is I did pre-plan that, so that's why it only took me 30 minutes. But yeah, what I want to hear though from you guys, what do you guys have for dashboards?
Yeah.
Show me your dashboards. I want to see things that you guys have created, things that you guys think are neat. There are still tons of things you can do with these dashboards that I didn't necessarily show. Possibly some I didn't even think of.
Yeah,
so
I know people are loving the maps and being able to embed maps in maps, and now that you can use backgrounds or you can connect things to iconification and just build all of that stuff is fantastic.
So,
but really it just boils down to what do I need to show to people and what's the best way to do that? And if you can get that answer, boom, you can actually have a good conversation. This is a lot of stuff for those of you who have maybe had trouble getting sign-off on monitoring. People are like, I don't want it, I don't need it, we're using this other thing. Being able to build them a dashboard showing them exactly what they want is a great way to get them to be like, oh, okay, I can see the power of this system.
Right.
Okay. So we have some notes here. You saw me taking them. But what do you guys want on the next open? What do you guys want on the next episode? So we're going to talk Orion. I'm not going to tell you what I have. So I don't want to, change the votes, but what do you need to see? What do you want to see next? I know that we've got the next one kind of pseudo planned.
Yep.
Registration hasn't opened up yet, but we'll be talking about some of the flip side of this is the really deep side of that, and then we'll continue on that track as well.
Yep. And we'll certainly revisit that as we start learning more elements, looking at custom properties.
Yeah.
We can come back to dashboarding because there's, again, still some stuff I didn't even show you guys that I know we can do that'll really help, especially with other items that we have.
Okay.
So,
any final thoughts?
No, let's hear from you guys. Any questions that you guys have? Any episode ideas that you guys have for us? Please let us know in the chat. Of course, you can always reach out to us on Slack as well. But yeah, let's hear from you guys. Let's see what we got.
All right, let's see. We got someone in the community who said that on their dashboards, they have all nodes, the weather map, the hardware health overview, and nodes with trouble. It's actually not a bad kind of starting one. It's actually, I had one not too different. That was, I joked about it earlier, but the what I have to work on today page. And I liked having the weather map on there, and because we had a lot of branch offices. The company I came from had 37 branch offices, and some of them only had single WAN connections, and some of them didn't have good UPSs.
Ooh.
So if there was a good lightning strike in that area, like I would look at the actual concentration on the radars, and if it was bad and I got an alert, I would kind of give it a little bit of an extra step to be like, I probably don't have to circle the wagons yet. It was probably just a quick brownout, and it'll come back. So,
Cool.
all right. So we'll continue to watch the chat. We'll be on the chat for a little while yet, but I think that'll do it for this episode. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Hopefully.
And I'm Kevin Sparenberg, and thanks for joining SolarWinds Lab.
Yes, thank you.